business strategy versus life strategy. Do they have to even be a versus? That's what I want to talk to you about today. So my name is Nicole Gallucci. I have been a CEO, a president, managed a joint venture between Nestle and Coke, run my own agency, currently a prof teaching marketing and strategy. And my greatest passion is actually being a business performance coach and then teaching this to the students that I work with, because what I find is when we think strategically, we actually allow everything to flow and fall into place. That's true of business, and that's also true of life. So I thought what I'd do is explain something to you today. I published last year a book called Life Blueprint. The goal for me publishing that book was to provide a strategic framework for our lives, because we have actually lots of strategic frameworks for business. So let's just think about this for a second. In business, when you have a problem, what do? You lean into your peers, you look at processes, you look at your plans and objectives, and you come up with a plan of action, a new plan of action that is going to help you achieve success, right? That's ultimately what we do. That's kind of the process that we go through. And it's pretty standard, and we have ways that we check in weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually on all of our business plans to ensure that we have a sustainable, viable, thriving entity, right? That's the goal for our businesses. So let's talk about life. What do we do when we have a challenge? Well, sometimes we talk to our peers and our family, and we don't really have any processes that we lean into. We lean into usually opinions from these folks. Often we second guess in our head. We might seek professional help, which obviously is amazing if we can do that, but sometimes we can't because of access to that, meaning literally we need to talk about something now and that person's not available, or there's a cost issue. Add to this that maybe what we have to do is buy a book or talk to a coach or take a workshop. But at the end of the day, what's lacking here is a consistent flow. There's lots of should I do this? Should I do that? Where should I go? What should I do? There's not direction. Here, there's a clear path. Here, it's like, I could do this, and then I could do this, and then I could do this, and then I could do this. And so there's nothing that is certain. Not that there's anything certain in anything in the world, but there has to be an easier way to figure out these problems. And so I think I figured out an easier way. And I've identified that in a life blueprint process. And I've taken over 5,000 people through this process. So in our working lives, we do a whole business review. We do that at the beginning of the year. So I'll put over here work or business and life. So what my suggestion is that we actually do a review here. And in my book, I call it taking stock. And what this does is this allows us against 8 different parameters in our life to figure out where we stand, what's working for us, what's not working for us, what's holding us back, what's pushing us forward, all of those sorts of things. So we actually go through all of this. Then similar to it, as a next step in a business review, we sort of do our strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats. Kind of do a similar analysis over here. I like to, focus on strengths, but I really like to honestly focus on our accomplishments and what we really love doing. Although we have lots of blocks, and I actually talk about how to deal with your blocks. In business, when we have a challenge, we make decisive decisions, but we actually look at, okay, our price is too high, or we need to improve our quality, or whatever the issue is at hand. In our personal lives, when we have an issue, there isn't often that clear path because it's emotional. It's within us, right? And so it has a totally different impact. This has an impact on our DNA. So totally different way of approaching it. So in the book, I actually identify some, I'm going to use the word rituals or habits that you can go through to eliminate or, leave behind the things that are holding us back so that you can actually start to move forward. In business, once we go through this, we kind of figure out, okay, what is that, how are we going to position ourselves? And we start to develop, what are our goals here? What are our objectives? And we take into consideration the entire vision and mission that our company is on. And I think often we don't think about, what is our vision and mission for ourselves? This is highly linked in the professional world. We're thinking about, do we want to be the world's greatest blank, world's greatest shoe company, the world's greatest chip company, the world's greatest whatever. And this is some pains that we're having in the process to achieving that goal. But we have this big vision. I think sometimes we create these visions for ourselves and we even have the vision boards, but then we don't put the pieces of the puzzle together that help follow and make that happen. So once we do this part and we kind of take stock of where we are, I actually have people go through a bit of a meditation exercise where we talk about your vision and we talk about your mission. So that you go from the, oh my God, this is what I really want for myself, and dream big. There's nothing holding us back. I don't know why we think there's all these things that are holding us back, which is what we deal with up here. And so when you actually then clear that clutter for yourself, which is very important, same way we do in business, we clear the clutter over here and identify it, then we can chart a path that helps us achieve this vision. Same thing that we do here. And then as we're charting the path, we're like, okay, this is the work that I'm gonna do every single day to achieve that. Same in both cases then, what we do is we talk about our values, what's gonna drive us every single day, what's in our DNA, what's our foundation, so that helps provide, a little bit of parameters. Obviously, if somebody wanted to be a multimillionaire, you could go rob a bank. That would probably potentially have a lot of risk attached and be against your value system, be against my value system. So I'll just put it that way. So you've got to think about, what are your values as part of this? Because obviously there's a million ways that you could achieve something, but your values are your check-in point. Once you've got your values in place, the next thing that you really want to think about is how your legacy or impact. And people are like, why do we talk about this right here? And sorry, we don't talk about it in a corporate setting. We talk about it a little differently. So let me explain. The way that in both cases it links to values is that in a corporate setting, you're being philanthropic, you're taking care of your employees, you're taking care of your clients. It explains your ethos and your organizational culture. And I think that's super important. In your personal life, this is, the lives that you want to touch. Obviously, you want to have a certain way that you want to live, but how do you want to be remembered? How do you want people to think about you? Do you want them to know that you've always got their back, that you can count on them, that you're going to be a friend in good times and bad, etc.? So that's why it's important to note this, because what this does is it helps balance our day-to-day business and what we're doing every single day with this grandiose vision that we have. Because, you got to be able to manage the two parts of the equation. You've got to be able to live every day happy and healthy, work every day towards your bigger vision, and at the same time ensure that you have a sustainable business. So the two are very consistent here in that, our days are an accumulation of our life, are an accumulation of the journey that we take to achieve that vision that we want to have for ourselves. Once we do this, obviously we identify, exactly how are we going to, in the case of work, how are we going to go to market? What are our objectives and our strategies? And then we do a plan of attack to make this happen. And we actually chart it out, right? I'm sure if you're in the business world, we do critical paths, we set up calendars. I'm not a big fan of Gantt charts, but we do all of those processes. There's apps now that do all these things, so we do all the things. In our personal lives, we don't tend to do that. We say all of this is super important, but we don't tend to put a stake in the ground and actually clarify the objective, clarify why it matters to us, and then put all of the parameters around it to help make it happen. We do this so easily in business because we've got to justify a return on investment. We've got to put dates and money and people attached to help making this happen. But in our personal lives, it's just us. So it's almost as if we diminish the importance of this when in fact, this is extremely important. When we talk about work-life balance, This is why the scales sometimes tip in the favor of business, because we have ways to manage. We know how to lean into it. We know how to solve problems here. There's structures in place for that. In our personal lives, there isn't structures in place. And so we have to put these structures in place. My hope with the Life Blueprint process is that I'm giving people these structures. And then actually what I do with entrepreneurs is I have us lay out both sides of the equation so that we can actually see where there's alignment and when there's not alignment. So with that said, if we go back to this personal side for a second, obviously we have our set of objectives and why it matters and how we're gonna make it happen and our parameters in place. And then we actually do a critical path for ourselves and we actually put this in our calendars. And I think that's where, we often as a human species drop the ball. In our business world, we're being paid to manage, monitor, motivate, track everything. In our personal lives, we're not being paid for that. In fact, our payment is an amazing life. So when you think about it that way, there is no greater payment than an amazing life. So is it not worth it to go through this process and actually lay out how you are going to achieve your goals? It's worth it to take the time to go through the process. So people often ask me, okay, how long is it gonna take me to do this? And the truth is, it's gonna take you anywhere from 4 to 6 hours. But once you do it, you have such a clear path so that as opportunities come up in your life, you go, is this gonna fit into my plan or not fit into my plan? Or do I want it to fit into my plan? And if I want it to fit into my plan, what do I have to shift? The same thing happens in our business life. A competitor does something. Somebody comes up to you and says, I wanna buy your company, or you lose a key player in your company. All these things happen and you have to adjust. But because you have a plan in place, you know how to now shift to make that adjustment. We do this so easily here, and there's a great opportunity for us to make the process over here much more easy than it currently is, so that we can have the lives we truly deserve. So I do think there can be lots of learning from the strategic business process and a convergence of the two as we grow to create amazing lives for ourselves. And that's my hope with the Life Blueprint process. That's my hope for you as an employee, for you as a student, for you as someone at a crossroads that is trying to figure out, should I do this or go that way, or should I do this or go that way? And specifically for entrepreneurs, it's really tough because honestly, those lines between these two are often so blurred and there's often no balance. It becomes 100% our business life. But I think that's actually true for all of us in the business world. I think we often so easily start to get out of balance. It's something that we talk about, but it's not something that we actually lean into and start to fix. So I hope I've left you with some food for thought. I think there's an opportunity for us to add some strategic thinking to our personal lives so that we can live the amazing life that we deserve. And if you'd like any help with that, then please check out the link below, join my community on School, or DM me that you'd like to make a change. So just DM me the word change and I will help you in the process.